just I
Good evening, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and joining me as every Tuesday, we have Steve the Voice White as my co-host. Steve, how you doing tonight, sir?
G'day, doing good.
And as an extra bonus treat, we have an additional co-host, my good buddy Milt from Flowers Comics. Milt, how you doing, sir?
Doing well, sir. Glad to be here.
And of course, our man and jokester of the hour, we have the man himself, the legend. We have Joe from Anachronic Comics. How you doing tonight, Joe?
I'm doing terrific. Anytime I'm with you, Steve, and Milt, what could be better?
What could go
You hear
wrong?
that, Matt Woods? I mean,
Yeah, Matt. Oh shit! Now we got a drink though because we said Matt Woods.
Oh, I left my water downstairs. All right, well, whatever.
But Joe, again, always a pleasure to have you on the show and on the channel, buddy. But let's do it like we normally do. For anyone that might be watching on the rewind that doesn't know you, give the quick 2 minutes who you are, what your channel's about. Maybe a quick plug for what's coming up for you Friday. We'll go say hi to the chat and then come back to you.
Okay, well, I'm Joe, and my channel is Anachronic Comics, which I started a few years back based on a dare by Tina and Matt Woods. Not a dare so much, but they encouraged me to do it once we had some discussions offline. My first videos, like most other people's videos, are pretty horrible to watch. They're there. And generally my, you could see from the t-shirt, which is for my channel members, basically anachronic means chronologically misplaced. And that's because I focus a lot on silver, Bronze Age, and some Golden Age, as you're going to see tonight, comic books. I like history, always did. I was a lawyer by training and by occupation. So a lot of research goes into many of my my YouTube videos. And hopefully most of the time when people see this stuff, I get notes like, I didn't know that, which really makes me feel good because it's part of what my my purpose is in having the YouTube video there.
Right.
And coming up this Friday, we have a few recurring shows. We have DC Watch, where we talk about DC stuff with a few of my DC pals. That happens when we can get together. And once a month, we have the Anachronic College of Comic Book Knowledge, where an individual, and this Friday it's going to be Milt, will be answering questions about one of their favorite characters. And if they get all 5 questions right, they give me a 501c3 charity, and that charity can get $50. And the person that passes it becomes a doctor of comicsology. You know. We also have usually monthly, we also have the espresso mail call. Gives me an opportunity to make some espresso. And we have a bunch of guys. These 2 guys are on it quite often. That'll show some books that they've picked up over the last month. And for the last, I guess, 3 years or so, we have had a last Friday of the month usually. We're fluid, we're flexible. We have the comic book crowd, where we undertake to do some fun stuff, but also some serious discussions. And this month we have a topic that Steve has come up with that I think is going to be pretty interesting, talking about the afterlife of your comic book collection. So you may want to tune in for that. Thanks, Gary.
Oh, nice. Yes. And, you know, one of the things I like most about your channel is you have the extra layer of interest because of the history that you attach to the stuff. And guys, it's not just on his regular shows. Check out his shorts too, where there's always a little historical nugget in every one of Joe's shorts. So definitely check out his channel. His links are in the description below. A guy that I found through another guy on YouTube, Jason, when he was on YouTube, and he introduced me to your channel, and that's how I found you.
Oh, did you? Okay. Yeah, Jason. Yeah, good guy.
But let's say hi to the crowd. And before we do, though, tonight's a special episode, the first edition of this type. We've been doing some special episodes lately, and this one is highlighting books from Joe's birthday month. And as Chuck Hensey put it in the comments, pre-code.
I'm pre-code.
So Las Cruces, good evening, sir. Brian LCS, good evening. Shop for
Brian.
Comics, great to see you, sir. We have the Jackson Roy Kirk.
Oh,
That's why we haven't seen Matt. He's avoiding Jackson.
yeah.
How you doing, Jackson?
He's unsubscribed again.
Right? One of my favorite people ever, Jerry the Jitterbug.
Hey.
We were talking about you backstage. Lots of good stuff. Lots of good words about you, buddy. And we were also talking about Miss Tina Carrington backstage.
Oh,
All
yeah.
good words for her. So
The OG.
if you guys haven't checked out Joe's latest video where he got a spectacular AOK from Tina,
Fantastic AOK.
you need to go watch it. Yeah, some great stuff. And what a fun video, and what a thoughtful gift. We have Dave Bratton, who will be here in 2 nights' time, doing his first appearance on the 1011. And we have his brother, of course, Doug Bratton, right behind him.
Right behind him. Hey.
Isolation.
Mr. Chuck Hensey. Good evening, Chuck. Nice to see you.
Old Chuck, I'm old.
Right? I know that was a clever dig.
It's not the age, it's the mileage.
Let's see. We have Mr. Taylor Winder. How you doing, Taylor? Great to see you, buddy.
Taylor.
The king of all nerds.
Mm-hmm.
Reincarnate, yeah.
Right? And so we're going to go back to you now, Joe. I'll keep giving everyone a tip of the hat as they're getting their notifications and popping in. But like we're talking about, books from your birthday month. So I'm curious about them. So I'm handing the floor to you, buddy.
Okay, so my birthday month is January of 1951. Now, I don't make any kind of real big deal about my birthday other than I have a birthday show every year where I give away stuff on the birthday show. Usually it's around, even though my birthday is January 5th, please write that down and consider. Generally, I'm on my way down to Florida or something like that. So we have the birthday show around the middle of the month.
Right.
Know? And it's kind of fun. I bring in some books. Other people sometimes will bring in books too. And we give away the books to people that are there. And it's kind of fun. Anyway, so I had heard from, reading stuff about some people that collected books that were from the month of their birth year. Mm-hmm. And so it was always something in the back of my mind. And I finally decided after, and this is going to be my 11th book, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but I finally decided to take the plunge and started looking to say, well, what comic books came out in January of 1951? And so I went through and just a lot of different ways of being able to find lists of these. Wikipedia has lists of them. There are other people that have made lists of these books, including pictures and all of that. But what I'll tell you is if you're interested in doing this, and it is a fun thing to do, I wouldn't go crazy because there's a lot of books and, you don't have to get every single one. But if you really want to do this, I would suggest going to my comic shop, and going there, you can search for books in particular months, And the way I do it, because I'm not certain how to do it otherwise, is simply I find a book from January of 1951 and then just click on the side where it has on the side of the book, January 1951. And lo and behold, everything that they can sell that has a date of January 1951 shows up in there.
Taylor's getting digs in already.
By hand, Taylor. It's all done by hand.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a good way of doing it. Now, most of you guys are younger than I am, so you can probably get books in decent shape for a reasonable price if you want to go that route. My situation is a little bit different, and I'll talk at the end a little bit about right, exactly. So at the end, I'll talk a little bit about some books that I'm really looking to do. This year, I haven't really bought any or searched out any because we are doing a lot of work at our house in Cape Cod, and it's become a money pit. So I can't justify spending money on 1951 comic books at this particular point in time. But I do plan on getting back into it maybe next year because I do have some books I want to get. So before I start the 1011, I told Gary that I had a total of about 15 books. And then I showed him the 3 books I wasn't going to show. And so it's not me. I'm trying to stick by the 1011. I mean, I really am, but Gary said I should show these books. So the first one this was a very, very popular book back in the day by Magazine Enterprises, and it was Straight Arrow. And quite often you're going to see there's going to be a lot of cowboy and Indian type of books there. When I was a kid, that was a staple of both television, movies, and books. So this guy was really important. I think he was, if I remember the story correctly, he was half Indian, and his father was some sort of like a Ponderosa type of guy or what have you. Yeah, Gary did tell me to break the rules, Jack. Would I lie? I was a lawyer. I don't lie.
Yeah, we got witnesses here too.
He just bends the truth a little.
Yeah.
Another one.
Not a straight arrow, he's a crooked arrow.
Another one. And this is a Fawcett book, Jerry, if you're looking at it. If I remember correctly, I haven't looked at this in a while. I believe he was a movie or a serial star, Lash LaRue.
Now, I had never heard of him before, Joe.
And I wish I could remember the specifics of this, Gary. I did look up stuff for the other books because I can't remember everything, but I didn't look up this one because I didn't think I was going to show it until you told me to break the rules. So, but I believe he was I think he was a serial. He had a serial or something like that with respect to that. And again, it's a Fawcett publication, one of the Westerns that's in there.
Yep.
And Jerry said you never saw that one. So you brought something new to Jerry.
Wow.
Cool.
Sounds like a
Stan Lee
guru. Lash
Keep those spurs from LaRue. Lash LaRue. Keep those spurs from jingling. So
this other one is one. It's kind of funny. Everybody knows of Marvel's Daredevil, right? But there was a Daredevil and I don't have a picture of him here, but there was a Daredevil during the Golden Age that had his own comic book, and I forget now. I don't even know what number this is again because I didn't jot any of this down, but. As happened with a lot of things, then they tried to get like every hero just like has a Batman has their Robin, and what they did with Daredevil is come up with the Little Wise Guys to be his cohorts on that, and they were this group of like young guys, right? Pee-wee and the Little Wise Guys. All right, this is number 70 from January of 1951. And what happened was, starting with this issue, and again, I can't remember what number this is. The number 70. That's right.
Yeah.
But starting with this issue, they became so popular that they just dropped the Daredevil superhero character.
Wow.
And they took over. They took over the entire magazine for the rest of the run.
Wow. Good for Marvel to steal it.
So that was kind of weird, But
yeah.
So when I said, "Oh, I'm going to get a Daredevil for my birthday month," and it ended up being the first issue where they took it over. So it's the little Pee-wee and the Little Wise Guys in the Daredevil magazine.
And they did kind of a soft reboot on that character last year. They had like a one-shot out of him.
They've had a few reboots of a lot of these characters that you see here that we're talking about, and a lot of those characters were brought back. I mean, DC's done a bunch of things. You're going to see some DC ones in here with some of the characters. They bring them back. Sometimes they bring them back. Like we talked about the Shadow on the comic book crowd. I showed the Shadow thing, and DC brought back the Shadow, and that 12 issue run was really good. Then they did a volume 2, and they brought him into the modern age, and it sucks. Then they did a volume 3, they didn't learn their lesson, did it again. The volume 4, they put him back in the 1930s, and it was better. So you're going to see they really try to recap these things and bring them back, and it just never reaches the same magic that it had, at least in my view.
Right.
Even something like Shazam or Captain Marvel, a lot of it's fun and some good writing, depending on who the writer is, but it's not the same thing.
Right. You can't recapture that feel.
That's right.
Yep.
So now that I've broken the rules, thanks to Gary, it's been at Rack Studios. Yes.
Now, what's the first book? Let's see that first book.
A lot of these look like were really great covers, even though they weren't.
That wasn't his number one, guys. That was his pre-show books.
Yeah, this is pre-number 1. This is 0.
This is issue 0. Yes.
0, 0.1, and 0.2.
0, yeah, -3. Yeah, what was it? -2, -1, 0. Okay, now we're number 1. So the first book I'm going to show is Black Rider. Right.
Oh, neat.
Oh, great border
Black
cover.
Rider number 12. All right. and it's by Timely Comics. Nobody knows what Timely Comics is, right?
Yep.
The precursor of
52
Marvel,
big
Atlas,
pages.
kind of, you know, right? So this Black Rider, 52 pages. I'm trying to make sure you don't get the glare if that works out for you. Anyway,
That's good.
so this has 3 stories in it. All right. And all 3 stories were written by Stan Lee. All right.
Excellent.
So we have The Town That Vanished, Marked for Murder, and Trek of Terror. You know, so there's a whole bunch of stories in here, and Stan Lee was the writer on this. This is, I guess, he had just started a few years before, and he was. I don't know how somebody could write all these comics and come up with all these stories for like all these years, but he did it.
Yep.
Now, did he go by Stan Lieber in that, or by Stan Lee?
I don't know, because they didn't put the names of who wrote it in this. So this is only the information that I've got. You know, yeah, he did like his alliteration, but so do I. Alliteration is a lot of fun. That's why we have the Anachronic College of Comic Book Knowledge. You know. Anyway, so so Black Rider. Now, the interesting about it was that there's so many cowboy type of magazines back then. So Black Rider was one that I came up with that I found. And number 2, I've got Red Rider.
Red Rider. Oh,
with
we
the
got all the
Y. Now,
colors.
Red Rider was a little bit more of a significant comic book. And you see, it was kind of like it looks almost like a watercolor type of cover in this.
Yeah, that's nice.
Right?
That's just a great cover.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he, I think his first comic book was in 1941. He ran for a long time. There was a newspaper strip for Red Rider, and it was produced in Spanish, a whole bunch of different languages. It was a worldwide phenomenon, basically.
Wow.
They actually had a radio show, and I'm not sure if he had a not a TV show, but he had a serial as well.
See, as a kid, I had the BB gun I had a Red Rider.
You have a Red Rider BB gun?
Yep.
So it became really significant all around the world. Like I said, a movie serial, a radio show. I think in Spain, was it? He only ran for 151 issues here in the U.S. But I think in Spain, they distributed over 474 issues of Red Rider.
Wow.
It really took off there.
It really
Big
took
time.
off like there. Right.
Incredible.
So we had Black Rider with an I, right?
Right.
And
then
Red Rider.
now
With a
I
Y.
wonder, Joe, because I mean, you bring up an interesting point, right? Like, how many comics like did well here, but did even better in another
Overseas,
place outside
yeah.
the States?
Well, a number of them were brought over to Europe, but Red Rider was somewhat significant. It just became something. And I think if you think back, and you probably can't because you're too young, but if I think back, the 1950s, I mean, cowboys, I mean, Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, all the cowboy stuff that was going on there. Gene Autry, the singing cowboy, and other stuff that's there. I mean, there were so many cowboy and Indian type of things, even shows in the late 50s, like Wagon Train that was there,
Yep.
It was a big deal. And in Europe, when they thought about America and American things, they thought about cowboys.
Mhm.
It was a significant thing. It was kind of American culture at the time.
Right.
And so when it went over there, they just ate the whole thing up. It was really, really something that they saw as being America. In post World War II, America had grown and become essentially, a cultural and economic and political power, throughout the world. And our culture started to spread, and cowboys and Indians were a significant part of that in the 1950s.
Yep. It's a big deal.
Nice.
Yeah.
And great covers too.
They were great covers, a lot of them. Now, the which one should I show next? I think, the other one that was really big, and when I was a kid, I loved this show. Matter of fact, I loved it so much that I searched and I searched, and I managed to find the five first TV episodes of this character, which was really, really amazing. And that character is The Lone Ranger.
Oh, excellent show.
It's just a great comic.
Fantastic show. And so, and talk about cultural phenomena. The tropes that came out of this show were amazing, you know, in terms of, you know, when he listed his horse was
Trigger.
Silver, right? So
Silver.
he lifted up and go, "Hi-yo, Silver, away," you know, and he going away, right? And at the end of every one of the shows, all right, he was a Texas Ranger. I don't think on the first show, what happens is that Tonto, his Indian companion, all right, finds him beat up and everything like that. Some people had beat him up and whatever else, and he was a Texas Ranger. So what he decided to do was to go back after these guys, but he decided to do things his own way, thus the mask, right?
Yep.
So
Vigilante.
kind of, you know, but he always followed certain rules. And what kind of bullets did he use?
Silver bullets.
Silver bullets.
Yes.
You know, so his bullets were made from silver. Right?
That's expensive.
Yes, Chuck,
He
you're
was
right.
a well-off cowboy.
Fighting those werewolves.
So what happened was he decided to do this with Tonto, and at the end of every one of the shows, you know, and they have some of that in this book. At the end of every one of the shows, he saves people and everything, and there's always somebody who says, "Who was that masked man?"
That's right.
And then someone says, "Well, that's the Lone Ranger," and you know, then he goes, you know,
Kind of created the superhero tagline, huh?
that's right. That was one of the
Pretty
tags.
much, yeah.
Now, Chuck had mentioned that it's the, what did you say, Chuck, the grandfather of the Green Hornet? Yeah. Great. So the Green Hornet, let me just see, because I want to get this right. So the Green Hornet was originally the Lone Ranger's nephew, Dan.
Really?
Britt Reed, all right, who in contemporary times fights but never-ending battle for truth, justice, in the American way, you know. So in the original kind of radio show, because this was obviously a radio show for a long time, then it became a TV show. The original Green Hornet was his nephew.
Wow.
So Chuck is right. Chuck is like comic book history.
Oh yeah, he does history all around. Eh?
He's amazing. He's amazing. So Trigger Jim knows. So that's the Lone Ranger. All right. This was number, what was it? I don't even know what number it was.
It's one of them.
It's a Dell book, and they never put the numbers on this, but it's from January 1951.
Yeah, they didn't make it easy for you to do numbering back then.
No, and I
they
don't
had to
think I
look on
wrote
the
it down.
inside. But kids
unfortunately.
didn't care, you know. They look at the covers and you know they want it. They didn't care about what number.
Yeah,
it
they
was.
didn't care about that.
And that's
So
in great shape.
the radio show
That
began in
was-
1933 in Detroit, which
Really?
is kind of interesting.
Wow.
1933.
What's
Bread, right?
Wonder
Oh,
Bread.
of course.
Yeah.
What else would it be? Wonder Bread, right?
I mean, Silver, was he the first animal that had his own comic?
I don't know.
Or was it
there was a
Trigger?
comic, there was a Silver.
There was
Yeah.
Trigger the horse. Remember Trigger?
Roy
faster than
Rogers.
Yeah,
lightning.
Roy Rogers.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Silver
Yeah.
had his own comic as well, so it's interesting.
I bet on Lassie for the first comic. But
Oh,
I was
yeah,
just gonna
that would
say,
be-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disney.
all right.
and what,
So-
Benji, did Benji come after Lassie, or
Yeah, I think that was
Yes.
more
Yeah.
70s.
That was like 60s, I think, or maybe 70s.
70s. I don't know. I remember watching.
Lassie goes way back. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
The first
Lassie
Lassie was black and white on television, and Lassie was a book and stuff before that, and I'm sure it was. And I've seen comic books, Lassie comic books. Yeah, Mickey Mouse. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably, probably.
maybe.
So you guys loving January 1951 yet?
yeah, pretty cool so far.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Pre-code. Give
Rin
us
Tin
more
Tin with
pre-code.
Lassie and Benji. Yes, yes.
What number are we at, Gary?
Rin Tin Tin.
We're on number 3 now.
3.6842.
And Rin Tin Tin was between Lassie.
Now we're at number 4, Gary. You got your numbers wrong.
Well, no, you had Black Rider and Red Rider, which were grouped together. The Lone Ranger.
No, they weren't grouped together. They were individual.
Oh, I just thought you were doing the Joe thing and doing like a,
No. I said I'm following the rules. Gary. I'm
1.683.
following the rules.
Okay, we're on number
After the
4.
last time, now when people flaunt the rules, they're going, "You're doing an Anachronic Comics Joe thing." So it feels like Jackson. It's because there's so much information here. You know, my head is busting with this stuff.
We're gonna have to play it back in slow motion.
Yeah, at 0.75.
CJ?
You know, this
Oh,
guy.
nice.
Comic journey.
No
All
more
right.
hellos, CJ.
So the
All right,
next
number
one.
4, Joe.
Now, I actually bought 2 of these books, and when I did my first show where I showed some of these off, I gave it away as a prize.
Nice.
In an afterthought, I probably should not have given it away,
Mhm.
but I did. So Harvey Comics came out in 1948 with Dick Tracy.
Oh yeah, nice cover.
Great.
Right. So Dick Tracy, this is number 35 from January 1951. And let's see, how long did they last? Well, let's see. It went, I can't remember how long it went. But anyway, but Harvey Comics had it. The interesting thing about this comic book is, now Chester Gould was the guy who developed Dick Tracy. I used to read him every day in the Daily News here in New York, you know, in the comic strips. And the great thing about him is he had these great characters like, you know, Flat Top, Mumbles, Breathless Mahoney is in this one. She's a femme fatale, so you're breathless when you see her, right?
And she's got the red on, of course.
The red
What's
dress
that?
in distress.
She's got the red on, of course.
Right. B.O. Plenty. So B.O. could stand for whatever you think it might mean, you know, and so forth. So in this one, they always had stories, and then they had like stuff about, do you know the law, and so forth. Prune Face. Yeah, he was a great one. Prune Face. Flat top Prune Face. So interestingly, this cover was drawn by Joe Simon.
Oh.
Even though he signed it Chester Gould. All right.
Wow.
The inside, though, was the main story was written and drawn by Chester Gould. But Joe Simon used to write some of the stories for Dick Tracy as well. But he actually drew this cover here.
And it's a nice one.
I know the blue is just popping.
Yeah, and she, I think this was like the aunt or something. She stole the money. She stole the $50,000, and the aunt said, "Yeah."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Dick was not close enough to save her. So that was it. So I mean, I loved it. The cartoon that came out in the 60s, I guess it was kind of cool, you know, although Dick Tracy was not involved with it. Here in New York, there was a weatherman, Joe Bolton on Channel 11, you know, a local channel. And what they did was he became Officer Joe Bolton and showed at around 5 or 5:30. He showed the 30-minute Three Stooges show, you know, kind of shorts. And then so I used to watch him every day. And then what happened one time, he said, "Oh, you know, I'm not going to do the Three Stooges anymore." And we're going, "Oh, no. He says, "I have a new show. I'm going to be doing Dick Tracy." I said, "No." So what he would do is he would introduce the Dick Tracy thing. And all Dick Tracy would do is he would pick up the phone and call one of the cartoon cops and give him the assignment. And they would go out after Flat Top, you know, Mumbles, Prune Face. You never saw Dick Tracy doing anything. So it was kind of like it was terrible. It was
A little cheat.
You know? So Dick Tracy was a big deal, a very, very big deal. And so obviously he was going to have a comic book as well during the 1950s. I think his comic books lasted until 1961.
And now they're back again.
That's right, the new Dick Tracy.
Yeah, if anybody cares, issue 2 comes out this Wednesday. So
who's publishing that one?
Dynamite.
Mad Cave. I thought it was Mad Cave. Maybe not.
Mad Cave. Maybe it's Mad Cave.
All right. We'll see.
It's really good if anybody wants to pick it up.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Surprisingly so.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be.
And Man Cave's been reviving a bunch of those old books now, those old properties.
Yeah, if they own them.
A lot of them have what's the word I'm looking for? They have good bones. So if they get a reasonably good artist and good story, they can be really good, you know? The problem is that they don't always do that.
Right. The problem is they're not always treated with respect. People, they'll assign people that don't really understand what the property is and just let them fly with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're doing good with Dick Tracy, though. The first issue was good. Following
Oh, maybe I'll pick it up. I'm going down to Manhattan tomorrow, so I'm going to stop by Midtown
When
Comics.
Joe said Western too, I'm surprised we haven't seen any Zorro yet.
I don't have a 1950s 51 Zorro, so don't hold your breath.
Okay.
All right. So the next one was another radio show that started, I think, 1939. All right. It was on the NBC radio channel. Then it went to the ABC radio channel. It went until, I think, 1953. The comic book started in 1948 and went until 1959. And this was one of the first ones I got when I was looking for it because it just kind of spoke to me. And it's Mr. District Attorney.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Look at all these blue covers.
Good stuff.
So this is Mr. District Attorney. And again, from January 1951, it's number, geez, I can't even see this number here. Number 19. Okay. And basically, it's what it was. And this fellow here, for the longest time, didn't have a name.
Really?
You know what they called him in the book?
Mr. District Attorney.
Exactly. That was it.
That's kind of on point there with the name.
What's the title? Mr. District Attorney. And obviously,
did that last a while, Joe?
did it last a while? It lasted from
Well, at least 19 issues.
February 67 issues.
67.
From
Wow.
48 until 1959.
That was pretty good.
And if you look, there are some other ones that are kind of nice. I mean, if I wasn't poor right now,
Yeah. Names are overrated. Forget
if
about
I
it.
wasn't poor right now, this might have been one that I'd pick up a few more of.
Kind of looks like Raymond Burr. If you,
Yeah, kind of. His name ended up. Then they finally had a name for him. When did they come up with the name?
It looks like Stephen Strange with a little bit of white there.
Yeah. They came up in the comic book. They finally gave him a name, Paul Garrett, and then
Wow.
the radio show picked up that name and started using that name as well.
That's a strong name.
Paul Garrett,
Paul
Mr.
Garrett.
District Attorney.
Yeah.
he does flash on the side.
Right.
No relation
is-
to Pat Garrett.
That is a cool book.
It's
I
cool.
like
It's good. The story's good. And this one, I have this one cost me $31.
Whoa.
I've got the price back here, so I'll give you the price.
Wow.
These are all good. That's a good price for a 1951.
And
Yeah,
Jack
and
wants
most
to know.
I have writing on them, or maybe have a split spine or something like that. I mean, I don't as long as the cover looks good. Yeah, it is brilliant. As long as the cover looks good, I'm okay with it. Believe me, it's 1951. I'm 73 years old. This book is 73 years old.
Right.
Who looks better?
Who looks better? Come on. Be honest. The book, right?
No, come on.
Now, I mean, that's something else that's always been popular forever, though, right? Is law shows.
Yep.
Yeah.
They come and they go.
Law and Order.
Except for Law and Order, right? One of the variations. They come and they go. And again, if it's done well, I mean, when I was a kid, Perry Mason was the big one on TV, and it was formulaic, right?
Yes.
Somebody was always accused who was actually innocent. They get Perry. He goes there. He defends them and figures out who actually did the crime and gets them to admit it on the stand. I mean, it was. But
Right,
we
then you
loved
have the last minute guest that comes
Yeah.
in, and all of a sudden they blow the case open.
But we loved it. Loved it. So,
Yeah. I mean,
it
it
was cool.
was good.
All right. The next one was the most recent book I got. I got it last year. It's a book that's relatively expensive, so I could never find one that looked good and that was, in my view, reasonable. Right? You had like something like a 2.0, $495, and it looked like shit.
Wow.
I mean, really. I mean, and I'm only looking at the photograph, right? So you would think
Right.
the person could put the best possible photograph up there,
Nope.
but they looked terrible. So last year, I finally found one that looked so fantastic.
He just had to pull the trigger on it.
I did. And I would say it's probably a 2.5.
Nothing wrong
And I
with
got it for
$2.5.
$64.
Oh,
Oh, what the heck?
another blue
Strange
cover.
Whoa, Strange Adventures.
Nice.
Number 4.
That is cool.
Good pickup.
Now,
last
the
year.
reason I got it for $64 is that the cover is detached.
Okay. Well,
Oh, big deal.
throw some tape
don't
on it. You're
care.
good.
Right?
Look at that cover. Doesn't it look great?
It
That
does.
is
And it's got some
nice.
spine ticks and stuff, right?
That presents so well.
Yeah. But otherwise,
Hang on. I can fix it right here. Hang on. I got the tape.
Well, and we happen to know a guy that could actually fix it, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
we got a guy in
yes.
the crowd there.
but I
Yeah.
have another one that he might be better to fix. I'll bring it up. That's the one, my speculation one I want to show at the time.
A little leaf
But-
casting.
So Strange Adventures, I mean, as you might imagine, was a science fiction magazine. And so I loved science fiction as a kid. And I picked up some of these Strange Adventures during the time, when I was collecting comics, because they had science fiction in there. For a while,
Also
they
big
had
into serials.
had repeats of some other things. But Animal Man made his first appearance in Strange Adventures. And who else made? Somebody else, I forget now who else. But there's one book that I really want to get, because it's just like, from an historical perspective, is really cool. This particular book was I think they had 244 issues of it. Let me see if I got that right. Yes, it continued until November of 1973, this first volume of
That's
it.
incredible.
And you had a lot of Carmine Infantino in this, John Broome in this particular book. So it's got a lot of really great artists in here as well. But the book that and actually the very last issue of the first run was the last Captain Comet, who was the one of the pre-Silver Age heroes, and he made his last appearance in the last book in the Volume 1 run.
Wow.
But the one that I really am interested in is number 140. I haven't made a really good attempt to find it. I'm sure it's around. I don't know if it's expensive or not. But Julie Schwartz was the editor. Gardner Fox was the writer. And what they did was they had all of them in the book, as I understand it, talking to Gardner Fox, trying to remember a story that he wrote. And that story just happens to have the formula for saving the earth from whatever was attacking it.
Perfect.
And during that time, Gardner Fox recalls meeting the Flash and talking to the Flash. And if you read Flash of Two Worlds, the introduction of the multiverse,
Mm-hmm.
at the end, I mean, during the story, the Flash, Barry Allen, keeps saying, "Oh, this is the Flash that I read when I was a kid," right? And at the end of the story, what he says is, when I get back, I'm going to go visit Gardner Fox and tell him that all the stories that he wrote, that he said he had dreams about, he was actually tuning in to Earth 2.
Oh, wow.
And so he mentions that in this book as well. So it's almost kind of a corollary to that Flash, the Flash of two worlds, So I think that's one that I really want to go and get.
It's
'cause I think it's really,
144,
really cool.
did you say?
It's number 140 from May of 1962.
140.
Flash of Two Worlds is mentioned in that, but it says here, one panel mentions Gardner Fox having previously met the Flash in the iconic Silver Age story, The Flash of Two Worlds. So it's the only book I know that actually, kind of follows up to that and shows that Barry Allen Flash actually did go to talk to him and explain what happened. With
That's
respect
cool
to
when they
So
conclude.
it's really, really cool. I think.
There's a resolution to the story.
Kind of, it's like, oh, that did happen. He did talk to me about it and all of that. So I thought that was really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to looking for that.
some
when I
neat
get the
connective
chance.
tissue there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
So I don't want
awesome.
people going out and buying it now and moving the price up. Calm down.
Right?
FOMO, must get book. FOMO.
Right, Joe's
Yeah.
influencing the market right now.
If you want to buy two, let
That's
me know.
his
That'd be okay.
first of 8 spec books.
I got to get two.
You gotta go too. Okay. Now, the next one I think is one that I always felt that, Steven Spielberg, a number of years ago, actually came out and said he was interested in doing a movie about this group. And I still think, I'm hoping that James Gunn gives it some thought, because I do think it would be really, really a good movie, but I think it has to be a period piece. It has to be kind of World War II. And it's Black Hawk.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's a great
nice.
book.
Great book.
Now, Black Hawk, yeah. So this was originally a quality comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, is that yellow or?
Yeah,
Yellowish.
it's yellow cover.
Yellowish
What
cover.
you're saying? Yeah, it's a yellow cover. Dirty.
It's faded.
Yellow,
That's
faded
cool.
bit and dirty. Yeah. So Black Hawk was originally a quality comic, and when what's his name, Wertheim, whatever his name, when he came out with the book. God, why did it float? Just flew out of my head. The book about that started the Comics Code. What's it? The Something of the Innocents. What the hell was the name of it?
Oh, Seduction of the Innocent.
Seduction of the Innocent. Okay.
There you go.
When that came out, they decided to stop
The Black
stop
Hawk
making
books.
comic books, stop publicizing comic books.
Yep.
I'm talking about the comic book, right? So what happened then is that they leased the characters over to DC. Eventually DC had their own comic, but DC decided to continue Black Hawk. So Black Hawk has a distinction of being only one of about 5 comic books to continue from the golden age over into the silver age of comics.
Nice.
I think it's Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Phantom, and Black Hawk. Those are the only 5.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it continued doing it. They did have a serial, I think it was in 1952, and Kirk Allen, who also played Superman, played Black Hawk in that one.
Nice.
And I don't know if a lot of people know a lot about it, but actually the first story had to do. Oh, the history is in Black Hawk originally was a Polish pilot, and
a Polish American or just a Polish?
Polish.
It did
the
not.
Nazis were destroying this town, and their airplanes were there, and he came in this black plane and beat the shit out of all the Nazis, but he did crash land, and then one of the people from the town went to me and says, "I'm going to be back," and he built up the Black Hawks, and none of them really had names for the longest time. They were all just Black Hawks, and they wore kind of the uniform that he had there. And from an interesting standpoint, this fellow right here, his name was Chop Chop.
Oh yeah,
and
right.
Something that would not pass today.
No,
but it was basically kind of racist. But you have to remember, in the 1940s, especially, Asians were not thought of well. But the interesting thing about it was, although he was portrayed kind of in a silly way, he was fully a member of the team, though he didn't dress like them. He dressed, I don't know, like kimonos or something like that. But he was fully a member of the team. He was very smart, an excellent fighter, and often saved them. Mm-hmm. But he was also some sort of comic relief for them. And interestingly, as they went on in different iterations of the Black Hawks, they took more of that kind of silliness away from him. So in the last iterations that they had, I don't know when it was, 5, 7, or 8 years ago, whatever, he has the full uniform. He looks just like the rest of them and all that, except that he's Asian. So it's kind of a progression of culture and the way that it works. But the Black Hawks, I think, would be a great period movie, if they would do it the right way. And the storyline about, Poland being attacked by the Nazis and them taking it over. In another iteration, Milt, he did become Polish American. But then I think it was after Crisis on Infinite Earths, he went back to being Polish, just Polish, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. That's what I remember. So
now what's cool with these old properties like this, and especially with like Lee Fox Phantom and stuff like that, right? Like and Doc Savage, we want to see these characters come back. What we don't want to see is them to put them in a modern setting. They work best in their period settings. And there's no reason you can't bring them back and keep them in their time periods and tell a period story with them.
Well, they did that in the 80s when they brought it back. It was still the period time.
Right. But when they stopped publishing them, the problem was, this is what DC did with a lot of stuff. In the 60s, a lot of their stuff turned silly. And even Batman was fighting aliens and all this. Everything became science fiction pretty much. And that's what the Black Hawk started to do. And they started to kind of lose popularity until it just became fait accompli that the title was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just didn't handle it the right way.
Just like
so Black Hawk, January 1951, number 36. All right. I'm tired. Cool. Is the show still going on?
Come on, Joe. You can do it. Rally, buddy. You can rally.
We got a really cocky guest. He's really extending it.
I know. I'm talking a lot. I won't say much about the next one then.
Why? The information's fantastic, Joe.
Yeah, we're just studious students here, just sucking in all this information.
I should have simulcasted this on my channel, Gary.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So now we get into some stuff that you definitely would know. This is like Adventure Comics with Superboy.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Blue
Adventure
cover.
Comics. Yeah. There you go. Another exciting story of Superman when he was Superboy. Now, you know who created Superboy, right?
Nope.
Lay it on us.
Siegel. He actually owns the Superboy, at least, or his family, I guess, I think still own the Superboy character. You know, this Superboy. Not.
You talking about Jerry Siegel started Superboy in Adventure Comics?
Well, he wrote some of the stories, but he's the one who thought up the idea of having Superman as a boy. So the character itself, I think, still belongs to his family, which is another reason why they came up with Connor Kent, so they can have a different Superboy and not have to. At least that's just speculative thought on my part, but that's the way it comes with it. Dave says he has the run. Okay. So yeah, Adventure Comics. Win Mortimer drew the cover, and Kurt Swan penciled the main story on this one.
Kurt Swan.
From 1938 to 1946, Adventure Comics starred a number of Golden Age characters, including Hourman, Starman, Sandman, Manhunter, backup features that were in there. Then in 1946, they canceled everything else and put Superboy in there with some backup features as well. There were 529 issues of Adventure Comics during that time until it went over into the next iteration. And the backup series included things like Aquaman and Green Lantern as well. So
nice.
Adventure Comics.
That was a big book in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Superboy has a pretty devout following.
I love those stories because he was a young guy, and a lot of the stories, like this story here, you know, he was Prince Charming, Smallville, you know, so it's like stuff that you can kind of relate to, you know. And the next one is Superboy, the actual comic book from January 1951, Superboy number 12.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Now, this is a great story.
That's a great cover.
It's a great cover. So Superboy's in, obviously, he's in Smallville High, I guess, or whatever at the time. And Smallville decided to put together an organization where the descendants of people that had heroes during World War II, along with any surviving heroes from World War II, could join. So what happened was one kid, his grandfather, who was actually a hero during World War II, was thought of as having deserted or something. Don't hold me to it, but there was some bad stuff that he did. I think he deserted or he failed to help out his unit or whatever else. And the boy kept saying that's wrong. His grandfather always told him that wasn't right. So Superboy actually helps him clear his grandfather's name so that they can be part of the new kind of heroes club for World War II that they put together.
It wasn't that noble of them.
It was very noble.
And then that title became Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes later, right?
Well, that was it. That was in I think that was in Adventure Comics, if I remember correctly. It went through. It changed its name at one point then to Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes.
Oh, okay.
You know, it went through different kind of iterations. But no, wait, maybe it was this one. I can't remember now, Gary. It was Chuck Hensley when you need him.
Come on, Chuck.
Right?
Googling.
Hold on. Maybe I wrote it down. Let me see. Maybe it was this one. I think you're right, Gary. I think I was wrong.
Googling.
Yeah. I don't think I have it.
That's all right. Still a great book.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a
nothing
great
wrong with that.
book. Number 12. It's fantastic. Did I write it down? No, I don't think I did.
Well, I like the story.
The story is a good story, and they do a
Pardon?
lot of this type of stuff here. It's kind of something that was typical of the times, and they really wanted to make sure that Superboy was a good, kind of role model for everybody that was there, that was doing that as well. So, yeah, I didn't write it down. Sorry, guys. But you might be right. I think it might have been Superboy, but I don't remember which one it was. But it was one of his titles.
Yep.
Okay.
Very cool, though.
And again, I love the border covers like that. So
And
nice.
it's kind of interesting. Yeah, the way they did it with the blackboard, it really just works.
It
And
does.
Superboy in red, it really just works.
Yes, it does.
Oh, and
That
it
was
makes the
number
characters
9.
stick out and pop.
In case you're not counting, Gary, that was number 9.
Oh, I got it. I just wrote down number 10 here. Get ready for your next one.
Number 10 is a cool cover, I think. The cover is by Wayne Boring, who also drew the interior. Now, who did Wayne Boring draw a lot of in the 1950s?
Something boring.
You guys know nothing. You guys know nothing. What's wrong with you?
No, it's not about EC though. So Oh, Action Comics.
Action Comics.
Another blue cover. You got a theme of blue covers going on.
Right?
Yeah, blue
and
cover.
another
Blue
like
and yellow.
DC cover where the heroes are in a tube or some sort of crystal and captured.
They look like pills.
So
Which
we know
film
that
do you
Action
want?
Comics in the beginning was an anthology, right? Even though Superman was on the cover,
Yeah.
it was one of a
Yep.
number of different stories. You had multiple 12-page stories, like you had Congo Bill, and you had Zatara. Who is Zatara?
Yeah,
She's a
it's
magic
the
user.
father of Zatanna.
Yes, the father of Zatanna. Good. Okay, the 1970s, but even earlier than that.
Jesus, I didn't study for this test, man. I'm just failing hard.
Anachronic College of Comic Book Knowledge.
That's why
Come on.
I'm a professor, Steve.
Oh, I know.
I
But-
dread Friday.
By the 1950s, it basically became a Superman title. And that was basically what you had. He still had sometimes a separate story. If you see there at the top, it says another thrilling adventure of the vigilante, which was a Western as a secondary story in here.
Yep.
But Superman was on the cover all the time. And interesting story here where Superman and Lois were put in suspended animation and they were not supposed to be awakened until 2950.
Wow.
It was
Still
1,000
got some
years. Okay. So that's Action Comics. Did I give you the number? I keep forgetting what these numbers are. They make blue, but then they put the numbers in black. So it's hard to say. Number 152. Number 152. Action Comics number 152.
From 1951. January.
1951. Okay. So that's the those are the 10. Now I had to struggle. Come up with. I gave you a lot of stories, Gary, right? So
Yep.
I don't know, but this story here, now this is a book that you've all seen. It's a book you've all seen. It's from 1951, not necessarily January. But when I decided to do a birthday collection, January 1951, I saw this book on Rob Batstack's Comics channel. And it's a cheap book. I bought 2 for $10 and gave one away as a prize from my channel to some other people, somebody else. I don't remember who. But I kept one. And again, this was the book that got me started. I saw Rob talk about it. I looked into it a little bit more. And so this is the book that got me started down the road to birthday collection.
Yep. As soon as you said you saw
you
it,
knew it was
I
gonna be this
knew what
one?
you were talking about.
Major Impact, Space
The free
Ace.
giveaway.
Space Ace. Yeah, and you know that this was basically a commercial
Yeah.
for Inapac, which was was it milk in like a package or something like that?
Was that what it was? I thought it was
I
a
think it was
detergent.
milk. I forget. Let me see. Did I write it
Okay.
down? But and it was, and the story was in the this. Remember, this was 1951. In the far off year of 1982,
Right.
you know, Major Impact defends the Earth from an alien planet cleverly hidden behind the moon. You know, a
Yep.
stowaway child helps Major Impact defend the Earth. He demonstrates household science experiments in here, and ends up with a chocolate powdered
Yeah, like quick.
chocolate
Yeah.
powdered milk edition, you
Drink.
know, like a Bosco or something, but it's a chocolate powder or quick. It's like a quick, I guess.
Yep.
You know, that you can mix with the milk and it'll make you into a space ace, whatever else.
Perfect.
So when I saw this, and I said, "Boy, this is cheap. I could get this." And I went on eBay, and I think it was 2 for $10. I
Yep.
said, "You know what? I'm going to buy this." And so I said, "You know what? Let me see what else I can get, maybe from 1951, especially January 1951." So the story is here that all of this is Rob Fat Stack's fault. Rob,
There you go.
Yeah. The bubble helmets and
The
space.
bubble
and
helmets
rockets.
are there. Everything else is there. And you can still get it really cheap. Matter of fact, it's kind of funny. I just went on eBay really quick. And some of the prices have gone up because people want it, but they
Yeah.
found a ton of these in storage.
Oh.
So they're all over the place.
I think I paid like $15 for my copy, and it's really
Paid
high
15.
grade.
Yeah. Metarog didn't have one. That's surprising because they're all
Right.
over the place. But the funny thing about it was I was watching one guy said something like rare comic, difficult to find.
Nice.
No.
I don't think so. I don't
Right.
think
A bunch of hyperbole to sell the book, huh?
I know. I forget what he was asking for, but it was way too much money. Way too much money.
$1
So it's a cool
million dollars.
Nice story, you know.
And a great cover.
Yeah, the great
it's a
cover
beautiful
again, black.
Great cover.
Not bad. This is a good one I kept. You know, I mean, it's a black cover. It's not so bad. It's in pretty good shape. If you take a look at it, sir.
9.9, baby. 9.9.
At least.
Could be a 10.
All right.
Spec.
Now.
1951 spec. Might get hot one day.
I mentioned that a lot of the books that I do want to get are fairly expensive. Okay. And, you know, part of the problem is that I'm so damn old that the books are old. And so when you go back to 1951, if there are books that you want to get from that time frame, not easy sometimes to find them and to say, okay, I'm going to get this book. So, for example, Detective number 167, right? A 3.0 is $565.
Yikes.
Batman 62, a 1.0 is $699.
Wow.
If you want a 3.5, it costs you about $1,200. All right. That Black Hawk incidentally cost me $75. Okay. There's a lot of Fawcett comics I wouldn't mind having, like the Marvel Family number 55, Wiz 129. There's like 4 of them that fall in that. Some of them are not as, if you get lower grades, not as expensive as the Detective or Batman. You mentioned EC, right, Steve?
Yep.
There's a bunch of EC comics that fall into the January 1951
Yes,
category
there
that
are.
I keep my eye on, that I wouldn't mind having.
Well, it's 52 though. It's close, but not quite. Mad
No,
number 1.
Not quite. Other things like Donald Duck 4-color. I mean, that type of stuff.
That would be cool.
You know, I think a 5.0 is relatively expensive. I was just looking at stuff I could find. There's another kind of law book, whatever it's called, Justice Traps the Guilty, that I found. The good thing about this is that the art is by Jack Kirby.
Nice.
The cover art is by Jack Kirby. The interior art is by C.C. Beck of Captain Marvel, Shazam.
Wow,
fame.
that's awesome.
It comes out of the Simon and Kirby studios at the time, you know. So EC pre-code horror. And the one cowboy book that I really want to get is Tim Holt, very famous cowboy from the time. But a 5.0 is like $300. So all these things are pretty expensive, right? So, but I did go out 2 years ago and splurged a little bit and got a book. But I got a book that's actually a key, believe it or not. And because it restates the origin of Wonder Woman.
Oh, wow.
man, that's
Oh, that's
awesome.
nice.
Wonder Woman number 45
Yeah.
from January of 1951. It does have, it is
Restoration.
restored. All right.
Jerry, we
I
can
don't know if
hook
Jerry's watching
Jerry.
this,
Jerry.
but the and this is why I could afford it, because it was restored, so it was a little cheaper. It still was about $350, something like that. But I think right now, even restored, I might be able to get as much as $600 to $700 for it.
Wow.
My
What
guess,
a great cover too.
based on what I'm looking at it for.
Yep,
right?
classic
Yeah,
Wonder
got
Woman.
photographs in there. Let me try to. There we go. That's a little bit better.
Yep.
Now, the thing about this is that the restoration is slight. Restoration includes a small amount of color touch on the cover.
Right, probably in the blacks.
Well, probably. It's hard to see, and I haven't really looked at it with my magnifying glass to see what's there.
Jerry's already figuring it out for you here. He can fix it up.
Robert Kanigher story, H.G. Peter art, Irwin House and Bernard Sachs cover. Origin of Wonder Woman retold.
Very cool.
So, the value, if it wasn't retouched, probably would be closer to the $800 to $900 range.
Wow.
So from a standpoint of spec, one thing you can do, if you have the wherewithal or you know somebody that can do it, and the CGC will look at it and decide if they can do it, you might be able to get something like this on the cheaper. All right. If it's a slight restoration.
Mm-hmm.
And now Jerry can do enormous type of stuff, but he'll look for a conserved grade instead of a restored grade because that makes it worth a little bit more.
Unless you can remove the color touch, which means they got to cut out parts of the cover, unfortunately.
Maybe that might be the only way you can do it.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, this is fine. All right. But from a spec standpoint, getting this for like $395, and even if I can get like $500 for it now, but I think I can get more, not bad. So
Right.
No.
I mean, I got this because it's my birthday book, but it may not be a bad thing to consider if you're into specking as to what this is. A lot of people get turned off, by this type of stuff. But more people that I talk to understand. Yeah, I agree, Bobby.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it either.
That, they don't care too much about this.
Nope.
I'm okay with it if it's slight like this. You can't even tell. You're right, Steve. It's probably the black.
Yeah. But it looks great. There's nothing
so
wrong with it. I have a
Right.
Mad 4 that's restored, and I don't care. I mean,
And
Golden
it's still
Age
a
restored
1951 book that looks fantastic.
seems to
January
be unacceptable.
1951.
Yeah.
There are only 85 universal grades for this comic book, and there are 7 restored grades. That's it.
Yeah. So there you go.
So
It
there's
just shows you.
92 books altogether for this particular book on the CGC. On CGC, yeah.
Come on, let's face it. It's not even really restored. It was a kid that just had a Sharpie and colored it in.
I was just going to say the
It's not
same
like
thing.
it was
Probably just a
freaking
kid
done
coloring.
professionally or nothing,
I probably did the
I don't
same.
know why
thing.
they
I
say
probably did the same thing
restored.
on some of my books. And I'll buy books that have writing on them. I showed one that had like Gary written on it, but I bought it because I wanted the book. It has Gary, so it was Gary's book at one time, not Gary B.
Well, anything with Gary on it, it's automatically is
Yeah, you're good.
goes up in price.
That's
It raises the
great.
value. It makes the value better. So that's my spec book, Gary. That was my storybook and my.
That's a great spec book,
I
Joe.
met the requirements of the 10-1-1.
Yes,
And I don't
you
want those
did.
first 3 books to be held against me.
No,
But
and
basically,
I think
all of my birthday books.
And I think for the first edition of birthday month books, this was fantastic, Joe. You knocked it out of the park. Grand slam, buddy.
Gary, what else would you expect from me? Come on. So I'm trying not to do anything bad, but I did have 3 other Golden Age books, and this is more for Jerry.
Go ahead and show them real quick.
This was from number 70 from, I forget which year this was.
No, he started showing it before you invited him, Gary. So this is on Joe now.
Yeah, this is on me. I take full responsibility. Captain Marvel's storybook from 1946, I believe.
Oh,
We
nice.
only had 4 of these, Jerry. There's only 4 of these. and this is number 4. All right, decent shape. And the other one that I picked up, this is in terrible shape, probably a 0.5, but it's I wanted to have a Captain Midnight. It's Captain Midnight number 46.
Yeah, that's a cool
Oh
cover.
wow,
Captain Midnight.
It's coming out right at
that's
you.
a great cover too.
Yeah,
But
so those
Jerry's
were my-
talked about
those were
this
my
in
birthday
the
gifts.
Marvel Family book.
Those were my birthday bins. I thought I'd show them to you. Oh, I forgot. One more.
Yep.
The original Airboy.
Oh
That's
wow, what a
cool.
cover there! Look
January
at that.
1948.
It's like the Bat Jet.
And I bought it because I thought it was January 1951. I said, oh, January. It's 1951. And I brought it home and it was 1948.
Nope.
So
Still, I mean that's not disappointing, right?
no, it's a cool book. It's
Yeah.
a cool book. The original Airboy, not the Eclipse Airboy stuff. I got a few of those. This is the original one from back when. So that's my story. And I'm going to,
Stick to it.
yeah, we'll buy a few more. I want to get some of the ones I spoke about. And so maybe next year, after my renovation of my house is done and I sell this house, I'll have a little bit of cash, hopefully. I'll be able to search for some of those birthday books there. Yeah.
Very cool, man. And
Got to
build
get
a
that
comic.
Strange Adventures 140.
Mhm. Fake
That's
birthday
true.
list.
That's true. But that was the year
Uh,
before I was born,
Right.
Jackson. That was the year before I was born.
Yeah, those were fantastic, Joe. Those were an absolute treat to look at, buddy. Nice,
Great.
great
Thank you.
job.
Good
Thank you.
stuff.
All right, so we're gonna go around the horn like we always do. We'll start with, of course, Steve. What's coming up for you, sir?
I'm just going to do the voices choices tomorrow, and I'll be on Joe's channel in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to be on the 1011 at the end of the month too. Already got my books all picked out, ready to go.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that.
It won't be as good as my show, though.
No, of course not.
Oh, shots fired already. Joe's feisty tonight. They put a little something in his
I didn't
teeth.
even have a drink tonight.
Jeez,
You don't have
Froggy.
to keep me big. I know I'm good looking, but you don't have to keep me big, Gary. You could swear us all off here.
Are you
We'll,
hangry?
we'll leave it out.
He's hangry.
So, now we're gonna go to Milt next, and he's got a few things coming up.
Oh, I'm going to be on Joe's Anachronic.
College of Comic Book Knowledge.
Yeah, that
Say it
thing.
6 times fast.
Okay. And then next week I have, I'm going to do a vinyl version of 1011.
That's going to be cool.
That's going to be vinyl and comics mixed together. So it should be interesting.
Mhm.
Nice.
And then Joe has that espresso mail call, which I hope I'm on. I
Yeah,
enjoy
so
it.
a week from this Friday.
What's that?
A week from this Friday.
Wow, quick. Time flies.
Yes, and we'll get Joe's our guest. We'll have him do his last. So coming up for me on the 13th, I have Dave Bratton on, and so we'll have his first 1011, which should be great. We should see a lot of great Superman books on that show.
Superman, DC.
Right. On the 18th, like Milt said, we have our first ever vinyl, the 1011, courtesy of Milt and his good ideas. And then on the 20th, we have Poke and Joe doing a military comics
Oh,
1011.
That's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that.
And we're just trying to keep the military in our thoughts because they don't get it recognized as much as possible. So we keep trying to do that. Then on the 21st, I think this starts an hour before Joe's show. We're going to have John and Cliff on my channel, and we're doing top 10 storylines that changed comic book history, that changed comics.
Nice.
So, after these stories came out, comics weren't the same, whether it was good or bad. All right, then ending out the month, we're going to have Steve on the 25th, and then we're going to have Jerry the Jitterbug ending the month strong with his first appearance on the 1011.
That's going to be
And
cool.
you can
That's
expect
gonna be good.
Golden Age goodness on that show as well.
Man.
So, and
Should be
Joe,
good.
what's coming up for you, sir?
Well, as Milton mentioned, he's going to be our candidate for admission, excuse me, this Friday on the Anachronic College of Comic Book Knowledge. He is going to try to answer 5 questions about some duck. What's the name of this duck again? Howard.
Yeah.
That's right. Howard the Duck. Now he writes to me and says, "Hey, Joe, I haven't read Howard in a long time. So can you give me some hints, and make the questions really easy?" So I did, because he's my pal and I wanted to make sure that he was okay. So the questions are really easy.
Right, like what kind of animal is Howard?
Yeah, what kind of animal is Howard? Is the first thing.
Tune in, because I just got some really cool stuff, Howard stuff that I didn't have before.
Right, that's good. And
so
I think you're playing for Wounded Warriors. Was that correct? Wounded Warriors.
Wounded Warriors. Yes,
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's right.
And I'm also going to be giving away a comic.
Oh, excellent! So tune in on Friday night, 8:00, to see that.
Yes, I'll ask a question and we'll see who answers first.
Fantastic. And then we have the next Friday will be the Espresso Mail Call, where some of these same guys are here. Going to be there. I got some really cool books to show. That's all I got to say. Really cool books to show. Some of them have writing on the covers, but that's okay, And at the last Friday of the month is our comic book crowd show. That's our esoteric show, where we get into some fun stuff, but also some really deep thought. And Steve the Voice White Walker is the one who came up with this topic. And Steve, you want to give him the title of it?
Oh, geez, what was the title that we gave?
The Afterlife.
The Afterlife of our comic book collection. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. So what happens when you're not around anymore to your comic book collection? It's going to be a cool group of guys talking about that. And other than that, I am working on a couple of videos, and I haven't put out too many recorded videos because I've been a little busy with some other stuff. But I have some cool ones that I'm working on. One is a series called Who Is?
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
And the first one is going to be one that I think Steve is going to like. It's almost done. All right. Cool. And we'll have that as a recurring one. And, I haven't done one where I just give my opinion about stuff that's going to piss people off.
Perfect.
And so I think I'm going to do an opinion piece that I've been writing out, and authoring. And, that's good. If people don't like it, tough. Just let me know.
Well,
it's my show, and I'll do what I want to.
Yeah.
Joe's short stories that he does are little shows.
My shorts?
Yeah, they are.
Yes, those are so freaking good. I I really enjoy those.
Those are his shorts right there.
Well, people should watch some of them. I get like hundreds of views, 1 or 2, 1,000 views, and some other ones I get 52 views. So I don't know.
Right, I can't figure out the algorithm either, Joe. You're not alone.
Yeah, it happens.
I don't know.
But I want to thank, and also, guys, after this show, go check out FOC and Chill with Circumstances with Marcus over there. It's the show to go to after we end. But as always, though.
Can I mention one thing before you end?
Go ahead.
I just passed 1,000 people on my Flowers Comics IG.
Oh, congrats.
And the 1,000th person, I believe, was Las Cruces.
Woo!
So I will be asking him for his address, and I'll be sending him this cool Funko Pop.
Luke Skywalker, great.
I can hear him saying woohoo right now.
What's that?
Said I can hear Las Cruces saying
there he is.
Right now.
Well, I hope he likes Star Wars. So
there he is. Hooray.
Going to New Mexico.
Excellent.
Damn it, all the way to New Mexico? It's going to cost a fortune.
Over the other wall.
Yeah.
Anyhow, yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, not at all. Congrats on passing 1,000, dude. That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Wow.
But again, thank you to Steve and Milt for coming on as co-hosts. I appreciate having you guys on as always. And of course, the return of Joe to the channel is always a great thing for me. I love hanging out with Joe. Joe, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And 2 of these people I've got to meet in person so far. Steve keeps avoiding me. I don't know why, but maybe he's got more sense than the other 2 guys. Who knows?
Those damn Canadians, I'll tell you.
Right? Very uppity, right? Elitist, I think is what they call themselves.
Oh.
Yeah.
No. But hopefully one day I get to meet Steve. But thank you guys very much. And also thank you to the crowd that showed up. Really appreciate everybody in the chat, everyone that came here to support all these people. Everyone's links are in the description below. So let's keep Milt's Instagram growing. Let's keep Steve's and Joe's channels growing and their IGs as well. Go sub up all these great people. And as I like to end these things, keep it casual.